Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King 3, and today I'm going to be giving you part 3 of What If Naruto Was Neglected with the solo leveling system. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends on your social media platform, and also guys, don't forget to go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto Was Neglected with a black Rinnegan over an anime symbol. I do hope that you guys enjoy. And remember, if you want your what if to be done by me, go ahead and comment on the latest video over an anime symbol to have a chance of it being placed in the poll, and you guys can vote for the what if I do next. So yeah, go ahead, check it out, and I hope you guys enjoy. And don't forget to comment down below and tell me if you're new so I can welcome you personally. So without further ado or wasting more time, what do you say we jump right into this? Begin now guys. So the last part we left off, we started off with a flashback of the past where Guran was about to be killed. Yes, she was about to be killed. However, she did not fear the incoming attack. She believed that she deserved this because she had sworn to herself that she would not kill anyone that did not deserve it. And her team had betrayed her. The client wanted the land of the man that she was sent to kill. She investigated and found out that the man was a beloved father. He had a son named Yukimaru. His community loved him. He even opened a center for people that had no homes. He was a pure innocent man. She had slaughtered her entire group. She also killed the leader that sent them to attack, and now she was left in a broken state. And she was just expecting and waiting for her demise until she was saved by someone that she did not know. She was angry at this person as she punched and punched. However, he hugged her. Rather surprising, he hugged her. She was not expecting that. She started to cry as she ended up falling asleep. She didn't even know how she fell asleep in the arms of an unknown individual, but she did end up falling asleep. When she came to, she was in a house on a bed. Rushing downstairs, she came face to face with the individual. She had no idea who he is. However, there was this calming presence about him that got her to talk to him. Turns out that his name was Naruto. From there, their relationship started as friends until it evolved into what it was right now. At the moment, back in the real reality, Naruto was standing on top of a hill. He had burst in the ground as he found a coffin with a person inside alive. His next target was Reiga, a psychotic man that liked to bury people alive. Reiga was not 100% there in the head, as Naruto made his way to stop him from burying the woman that he just found husband. At Konoha, Minato was able to avoid the coup, which he had no idea about, after sitting down with Fukaku when he noticed that Danzo and the others were trying to make it seem that the Uchihas were just terrible. Eventually, they came to an understanding and the coup was avoided. Mikoto Uchiha didn't know why she just thought about him, but Naruto popped up in her mind. Itachi was very close with him when they were younger. Very close, they were good friends. As he swore that he had no idea where Naruto went, despite them spending so much time together. Majority of the time, Kushina had left Naruto over there, while she was still trying to sort her life out. A part of the reason why Naruto felt so neglected and alone. But Itachi and him were friends though. Skipping back to Naruto, Naruto took on all of Reiga's men. He did not even use his blade, he used his fists. One after another, he knocked them down and knocked them out. Some were killed in the process as he took on Reiga. Reiga believed that Naruto was sent down from the heavens to fight him. It would be his ultimate challenge, his ultimate test. As Reiga attacked Naruto with a fury, he got in a few attacks, but nothing that would cause damage to Naruto. When Naruto got into his guard, he messed Reiga up badly. Reiga started to use every chakra in his body to plan for his ultimate attack. As he rained the lightning down towards Naruto after creating a thunder cloud, Naruto used kunais that he planted, strange daggers as a lightning rod, before he ended Reiga. Upon killing an enemy, a strong one, Naruto would gain their ultimate technique as he sank the stone into his chest, acquiring the technique once he knew about it and could understand it. But that wasn't all though. Naruto had a strange feeling while he was fighting Reiga. Recently he's been having some dreams about Guran. Some rather bad dreams, all of them showing her death, but he refused to believe that was the reality of things. As we then proceed to skip as Naruto realized that Guran was not home yet. She'd went to check up on the family as he made his way. It did not take him too long to get there. However, the place was a wreck, as Naruto pulled out a potion that was able to heal the man up under the wreck. Naruto saw Yukimaru's mother as she was dead. The man told him what happened as a few people came out, saying that the bandits had left, saying that they will be back for the rest. With that, Naruto made his way out there as shadows came from his shadow. As they start to attack, without a shred of mercy, Naruto slaughtered several of them, leaving one to tell him everything. We then skip to Guran, who was free from her cell. The guards had underestimated her. The day was a normal day. She had went to check up on the family, to make sure everything was okay with them. Since killing Yukimaru's father, she believed that it was her goal, to just watch over them. And when she got there, someone arrived and attacked them. It was a group of them, to be quite exact. Things were going well until the bone guy showed up. He was strong, immensely so, and not to mention she had to take on the earlier ninjas plus the group consisting of Renji and his team. And she was eventually captured. Kimimaru had been the one to bring her here, believing that his master would be happy about her particular bloodline. However, now that she was free, he said that he was just going to kill her. The base started to shake as Naruto arrived, causing pure chaos. Renji and his group tried to stall Naruto, but he slaughtered all of them rather quickly. Kimimaru had transformed as he proceeded to demolish Guran in a weakened state. When Naruto arrived, he begged him not to do this, telling her that everything would be fine. Guran said that she loved him, before Kimimaru stabbed her with a bone, destroying her heart in the process. Her body fell as Naruto caught it. Kimimaru decided that he was going to end Naruto, but his own body refused for him to go forward. A sense of fear filled the entire place, as Naruto was quiet. Kimimaru was speaking, however Naruto was not listening to him. All of the ninjas started to tremble in fear. Something was coming, something really dangerous. As Naruto picked himself up, a purple aura started to surround him. The eyes of death turned towards Kimimaru and his people. He had no idea what he just did. He had absolutely no idea what he just started. It was all his fault. Yes, it was. So yeah guys, basically as we left off, you guys can switch across to the play strict of yourself. Remember to go ahead and check out the brand new episode over Anime Symbol. I hope you guys enjoy each and every one of them. Don't forget to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado or wasting any more time, what do you say we jump right into this, guys? Begin now, guys. We begin this episode in the past. A 4-year-old Naruto was sitting on a swing by himself as he was rather quiet. He wasn't looking at anything in particular, as he was just sitting there. That is when he heard something as he turned to see a dark eyes boy behind him. As Naruto looked at him, the other boy also looked at Naruto as well. As he walked closer, "My mom said you should come over. Your parents are busy tonight, so they won't be there." As Naruto looked down, "Figures," he said. The dark-haired boy looked towards him. "This happened often," he asked. "More than I like," said Naruto as he got off the swing. as he started to walk, following the dark-haired boy. There was no words until they were almost there, as Naruto was the one to speak. "Thanks for coming to find me," he said. Itachi looked at the boy. He sounded so grateful that someone came to look for him. He nodded. "Don't worry about it." From that moment on, they became closer friends. Little by little they spoke. It was then that Itachi realized how complex Naruto's mindset was, how he thought, how he see things and view everything around him. He was a good friend of his. Perhaps he had to say best friend. He just had a way of thinking that Itachi saw him different from any other kids their age. A matureness that the other kids could not even come close to grasping. Until that day, when he finally decided to go through with his plan and left the village. Skipping back to the original time, Itachi Uchiha stood with his younger brother Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke was practicing kunais and shuriken throwing. Itachi had promised for some time now that he would help him, so here he was. That is when Itachi felt it, a tingling sensation. Even Sasuke came to a stop. A strange purple mist was spreading across Konoha. However, this was not normal. It felt like chakra, but there was some unusual feeling about it. "Big brother," Sasuke said, turning towards him. "What is that?" he asked. Itachi was quiet to the point that Sasuke had to ask again. "I'm afraid I don't know," Itachi said. However, that was a lie. However, Itachi was surprised that he was feeling this within Konoha. Something was wrong, he thought to himself. Meanwhile, at the office, the envoys bowed in front of their lord as Minato raised his hand for them to get up. "Sir, it doesn't appear to be harmful in any way. It is chakra, but somehow different. We're not sure where it is coming from. It's spreading to all angles, not just over Konoha." Minato nodded as he dismissed them back to their post to make sure everything was okay. Minato glanced through his window as a purple mist spread over the land of fire. He did not know why, but there was this strange feeling that he felt as he felt the tingling sensation on his hand. "What is this?" he thought to himself. Meanwhile, that was going on. Both Menma and Mito, even though they're away from each other, they were having the same reaction. They felt a feeling as this strange purple mist washed over Konoha like a storm. It did not cause destruction or anything, but the sensation of it was just so strange to them. It wasn't familiar, but it was almost like they knew what it was despite never feeling this feeling in their entire life. It was something that they currently couldn't explain, and they were not sure what it was at all. Meanwhile, that was going on a distance away, on an unknown rocky mountain. A woman was clad in a black cloak with red clouds on it. She had hair that was white as snow. It was kept up in a ponytail that ran straight down into her black cloak. Her nails were painted black. As she glanced up toward the sky, she was nowhere near Konoha as she was seeing the purple mist spread over where she was. The moment it washed over her, she raised a single eyebrow as she glanced up towards the heavens with curious blue eyes that looked so electric. Meanwhile, a distance away, at the hidden rain, standing on the tallest tower, on the head of the lion gazing out, was none other than the leader of the Akatsuki, a man with orange hair and eyes that were said to be created by the gods themselves, the Rinnegan. He watched as the purple mist went through the village despite the rain. It was almost like it was stronger enough to break through. He could sense tiny particles of chakra the moment it came with the rain. However, he could not focus in on where it was coming from. It was like a blanket covering everything at once. While that was going on, the sound ninjas were terrified. They were currently 10 of them in total in one area, all of them having kunais or tontos. They were shaken as a strange figure made from darkness itself. It had a strange staff in its hand that it twirled. Its eyes were purple. It had no mouth. It seems like a shadow. It had two horns jutting out from its head. The being of darkness twirled its staff as two ninjas rushed forward throwing explosive kunais. As the tags on them went boom, the figure was already in mid-air as it landed with such speed. It swept away the feet of three ninjas at once. It then twirled the staff. The end of said staff was sharp. It sliced down hard. The bodies of the ninjas fell, 6 pieces in total because all of them were sliced in half. The others tried to flee, but the being of darkness seemed to melt down into the ground. It rushed underneath them and reappeared in front of them, causing them to stop. They were not the only ones. Across the area was another being from pure darkness. Similar purple eyes, however this one was more small. It had strange daggers in its hand, as it was currently pushing a ninja off one of those daggers as a dead body dropped down to the ground. There was another one who was larger. He had 2 tonto blades. He twirled and twists. 3 ninjas were beheaded in the process. He then flipped over a sword swipe before he landed on the blade. He kicked said ninja with such force, his head was snapped to the side. He fell with the body as he leaned back, allowing the blade to pass his face. He grabbed the wrist of the individual and yanked him before he split him in half with his own blade, as he kicked away the body parts into another. There was another one that had strange gauntlets around his arm. He caught a kunai and snapped the wrist before he slammed the gauntlet into a sound ninja's face, completely obliterating it in the process. He ducked under a sword before he slammed a fist into the sound ninja's guts, lifting him off the ground. He then proceeded to turn and slam him into the ground, causing major damage to the back of the sound ninja's head. He was no longer moving. Meanwhile, over towards the next side, the wall completely obliterated as someone was sent flying. He skipped along the ground at least 10 times before he stopped. Kimimaru picked himself up as he coughed out a lot of blood. Looking into his palm, he was surprised. He pulled himself up as he was currently in the first stage of the curse mark, with black patterns covering his body. It seems like he underestimated his opponent. He watched as Naruto stepped through the hole, walking towards him. Half of Naruto's body, the left side, was covered in a strange purple-black armor that covered him. The right side was covered by a strange blue electricity, as he was holding a blade in his right hand. The handle was black. The blade was long and sharp. The center was dark, however. There was a massive blue hue over it. It was the blade. However, it seemed to be generated from power, as it was crackling every now and again. As Naruto dragged the blade along the ground was being destroyed and torn apart. A strange purple aura seemed to spread off his body as he walked. He had not said a single word since the death of Guran. He just kept on walking. Kimimaru, who had pulled out 2 of his bones, held them in a reverse grip. He rushed forward and swung, using the dance of the bone style. However, to Kimimaru's surprise, everything that he did was countered. Naruto's eyes were barely visible. There was a strange purple flame that seemed to leak from the very pits of his soul, and it showed from his eyes. Kimimaru felt the attack before his body realized what happened. His body was still in motion, but he felt the pain. His head was snapped back at an unbelievable angle, as Naruto had shattered his face with his left hand. Blood exploded from his mouth as it was turned to the left side. Kimimaru bounced off the wall as he crashed and slumped down. He coughed up more blood. How? How is this possible? His bone style was unpredictable, fast, agile, and yet, somehow this person was able to evade and block every one of his strikes. And the person just kept on walking towards him without a sound. Kimimaru had no choice. He proceeded to switch up things as he transformed, his skin turning grey. He ripped out his own spine and used it as a whip. He was now in the second stage of the curse mark. Two massive bones were coming from his back, two going up, and there were also two others that spiked outwards. Kimimaru's face had black edges over his eyes. He took off at blinding speed. Surprisingly though, Naruto did not move a muscle. Kimimaru lashed out the whip as it wrapped around Naruto's body. "Now it is over," he said. "This will bore right through you." As his other hand was covered in a strange mismatch of bones that turned into a drill, he then struck forward, aiming to kill his opponent. That was until the purple glow around Naruto seemed to grow even larger as he started to flex. The bone whip started to crack before it broke. Kimimaru was startled by that, but it was already done. It was close. That was until Naruto extended his left fist and drive it in to the drill. Kimimaru was startled. Was he an idiot? It would tear right through his hand. That was until the two forces met and something exploded. But it was not Naruto's hand. It was a bone drill. Kimimaru was shocked. His arm was left defenseless. When Naruto's fist touched it, it snapped backward. His shoulder bone being completely cracked. By just one punch, his hand flopped in the wind as it was thrown behind him. That was when Kimimaru tried to move until Naruto released his blade as it stabbed into the ground. He then gripped the small whip that Kimimaru was still holding and dragged him forward. Kimimaru had no time to release it. Now that he was close enough, Naruto grabbed him by the face and lifted him into the air. He then proceeded to drop him. The entire surrounding was obliterated. The trees were uprooted. The ground was torn apart. It was eviscerated. Kimimaru spat up blood right in Naruto's hand. Its back was protected by the bones, however, a large portion of them shattered. And he strengthened his bones, but still, the force was enough to shatter a large portion of them. Even the massive bones that came from his back exploded outwards. Naruto then pulled Kimimaru out of the earth. As Kimimaru's body was surrounded by a purple glow, as Naruto released him, it was like he was hit with an attack that threw him for miles upon miles. This was an ability of Naruto. It was called Dominator Touch, as he used psychokinesis to move his enemies. After laying his hand upon them, Kimimaru was blasted through so much trees. His back was already greatly fragile because of the attack. He screamed out every single time he was hit through a tree. Before he could hit the ground though, Naruto appeared behind him as he spoke, but his voice sounded so low it was hard to hear. "Quicksilver," he said. That is when lights could be seen. Well, that was all that Kimimaru saw as Naruto was zipping around him. Kimimaru screamed to the heavens. His body could not fall as Naruto was gouging pieces and pieces from him. The blade tore through his bones like they were butter, ripping and tearing him apart. Because of his transformation, he had a tail, but it was torn off in the process. By the time Kimimaru hit the ground, his face was sliced open. Blood was pouring down, his chest was mismatched. His bones were broken and destroyed as he was coughing up blood. His vision was blurry and fuzzy. Kimimaru could not understand how did all of that happen. By his perception, all he saw was light. He did not know how he got hit or what just happened to him. As he lay battered and beaten on the ground, Naruto was at least 10 feet away from him. As he started to walk, dragging said blade once again. Kimimaru had gave up on living. The only thing he wanted to do was serve Lord Orochimaru, the one that gave him meaning, a purpose, and yet, he felt fear. He felt terrified as he looked into Naruto's eyes. He started to tremble as he tried to crawl away, the fear overtaking him. He did not understand how could he be running. He had to give his life to Lord Orochimaru. The curse mark started to react as he heard Orochimaru's voice in his head. I can't run. Even if it means my death, I'll take you with me, he said. Bracken danced as he held up one hand. Suddenly, bones started to spiral from the ground as Naruto watched them racing towards him. However, he pulled his blade and waved it. The radius that surrounded him, all of them were shattered. However, Kimimaru was gone. He then appeared behind Naruto through one of his bones. He's the one that gave me meaning. I will gladly die for him. Kimimaru struck out. However, his hand that was covered in a spear of bones did not do a damn thing as it slammed into Naruto's armor, unable to even scrape it in the slightest. Kimimaru opened his mouth to say something until Naruto grabbed him by the throat. He raised his arm as Kimimaru's arm was severed, right at the shoulder, causing him to scream out in pain. However, Naruto tightened his grip around his throat, pausing the screams that were coming from his mouth. He then proceeded to drag Kimimaru out of the bone. Kimimaru screamed as this process was not supposed to happen. He screamed and screamed as blood exploded out of his mouth and his nose as well. However, Naruto simply held him up to the heavens. Kimimaru was barely moving by that point. His body. He also had an illness that was sapping his energy, but it did not matter if he was at 100%. He was no match for this individual. I failed you, Lord Orochimaru, he said. That is when he noticed a cloud start to gather overhead. Kimimaru did not know what to expect until purple lightning started to rain down as Naruto did not release his grip off Kimimaru. Kimimaru screamed on top of his lungs as he was fried from the inside out as Naruto held him as the lightning continued to strike him over and over again for what seemed to be hours, but it was not that long. In his perception, Kimimaru found himself hard to die and he didn't know why. He was hit over and over again. Naruto pushed his hand out as he pulled out a vial out of his storage dimension as he stuffed it in Kimimaru's mouth. The liquid, it started to heal him. His eyes snapped open. However, the lightning kept on hitting him. Blood-curdling screams escaped him as Naruto fried him and force-fed him another healing potion. He did it once again. Kimimaru was in constant agony, suffering at the brink of death until Naruto fed him once again. Seeing his stats, seeing how low his life percentage was, Naruto kept on doing it over and over again. Kimimaru was begging for death by the end of it, screaming to die. Naruto released him as he was falling. That was when Naruto sliced his blade at least 100 times before he stabbed it into the ground. The body of Kimimaru hit the ground in a stable position until blood started to pour out of every part of him. He split into hundreds of pieces as Naruto dragged a dark shadow out of him that went into his shadow. Kimimaru was left in pieces dead on the ground as Naruto incinerated every single one of them with a fire technique that swallowed the entire place. The whole forest was set ablaze. Naruto returned back towards the area to see one of his shadow holding Guran in his arms. He proceeded to drop to his knees and raise his head to the sky. He then roared. This wasn't a normal roar. As he roared to the heavens, all of the shinobis that remained, which was just a handful, they started to lose their mind. It was a recently acquired technique known as Dragon Fear. As Naruto released that roar from his soul, that drive anyone weaker than him into an insane state of panic, despair. They felt like they were drowning in a sea, unable to come up for breath. Some of them dropped to the ground as they curled up in a ball. Some of them reached for their weapons and end themselves. Some of them could not move. As Naruto sat there on his knees, looking at the body of Guran, tears started to rain down from his eyes, dropping down towards the ground, but there was no sound coming from him. He was crying, but not a single sound escaped his lips. As his strongest shadows returned back towards him, Naruto picked up the body of Guran. He didn't wipe his tears, he just walked. He just walked out of there, leaving the area. Time skip. A few weeks later, Itachi Uchiha arrived towards a secluded area. There was one house that was on top of this hill. Itachi stood outside as he looked to the side when he saw the upturn of earth and a tombstone there as well. He stepped closer towards it as he saw the name that was on it. Now he understood. Itachi was one of two persons that knew the location of where Naruto was. It was a few years ago. The both of them had came across each other. Itachi did not recognize him at first because of the changes when he activated the system. However, Naruto had been the one to tell him Itachi was his best friend when he was at the village. And Itachi went against protocol and did not report any of this. Time and time again, the both of them spoke. Itachi knew who Guran was after Naruto had met her. And Itachi knew how much he cared about her. He knocked on the door, but there was no answer. He knocked again, but there was nothing. A third time there was nothing. Itachi grabbed the handle as it was open, so he pushed it. However, there was something behind it. He heard bottles falling over. A lot of them. Stepping inside, Itachi saw 6 bottles. All sorts of different alcohols all over the place. They were all empty. Slowly walking as he stepped past them, he arrived towards the living room. Sitting on the ground, leaning up against a wall, was Naruto. His eyes were open. However, they were so bloodshot. There were bags under his eyes, like he had not slept for days upon days. There was a jug of sake in his hand. In the other hand, there was a little box. As Itachi walked towards him, Itachi was aware that Naruto knew that he was here, but he did not seem to acknowledge that he even exists. He was just sitting there, looking at the box in his hand, as his hand kept on flicking it, open and closing it. That is when Itachi realized it was a diamond ring. He then put it together. It seems like Naruto wanted to marry Guran, but things didn't end as he expected. Itachi stood there. He did not say a single word, he just stood there and waited. "I lost her," said Naruto. Itachi still stood there unmoving as Naruto continued. "For weeks upon weeks, I've been having these dreams where I found myself in a bath of blood, and Guran was in my arms. She wasn't moving or responding. It didn't matter how hard I shouted. For weeks, I could not sleep properly. I refused because I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to see that ever again. I put it in the back of my mind believing that it was just me overthinking things because of this," he said, flicking the box open to show the ring once again. "I figured that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. But I lost her. Even after getting so strong, even after pushing myself over and over again to make sure I can keep the ones I love safe, I wasn't there. And even when I arrive, I fail. to save her. As Naruto remained quiet after that, Itachi rested a hand on his shoulder as he sat down, leaned against the wall. "I'm sorry," he said. "But drinking yourself to death is not the answer. You know that she wouldn't have wanted this." "Yeah, she would probably try to kick my ass if she found out," said Naruto. "But she can't, because she's dead," said Naruto. As Itachi just rested his hand on his friend's shoulder, not responding. However, that seemed to be for the best. Itachi understood Naruto more than a lot of people, and know when to talk and know when to be quiet. "But don't worry, I'm not gonna drink myself to death. I have a goal, a purpose." Itachi was now starting to be afraid. It took a lot to make the prodigy Uchiha be afraid, but the tone that Naruto was using, it was too calm. In the past, Itachi had always been the stronger of the two when they were younger, because Naruto was not that strong. That is why Itachi advised for him not to leave the village, because he would die out there. However, Naruto changed, and now Itachi knew that he could not defeat him. He knew that because they've sparred before. And Itachi knew that Naruto was above him, at the level that they were at right now. There was no question about that. However, Itachi always feared what would happen if Naruto switched to the dark side. Being neglected by his parents, that hurt him a lot, but Naruto never focused on the darkness inside of him. Instead, he decided to step away from all that threatened to drive him mad. And he found a wonderful life with someone that he loved. And now, someone took her away from him. "Orochimaru," said Naruto, surprised in the Uchiha. "The one that killed Guran. He worked for Orochimaru. Orochimaru was his master. I've heard about him during my travels. The Sannin is interested in rare people. The one that she was always looking after was known as Yukimaru. He possessed an unusual chakra. Guran told me that. I have no doubt that Orochimaru was the one that sent, the one that took her away from me, after him. So I'm gonna find Orochimaru, and I'm gonna kill him. That's one of my goals. But I'm not just gonna stop there though. I'm gonna find everyone that he's ever linked with. It doesn't matter who they are. I'm going to find anyone that he's ever associated with. Anyone that he's ever worked with. Anything. Be that a business, be that a village. I'm gonna erase the taste of Orochimaru from this planet. And I'm not gonna stop until every single one of them is dead. One by one, I'll hunt everyone and everything down. And I'll make sure the Sannin suffer beyond anything that he can ever imagine. And that's what I'll do, said Naruto. And after that, Itachi asks, waiting for an answer. I really don't know, said Naruto, as he simply returned back to drinking. As Itachi remained quiet. This was a delicate situation. This could be something that turns out really horrible. And as Naruto friend, and as a ninja of Konoha, he need to do the right thing. Otherwise, this might spell bad for every single one. In the state that he was in, Naruto was not thinking well. It is said, when a man has nothing to lose, he become one of the most dangerous form of himself that anyone could ever imagine. And right now, that look in his eyes, Itachi was afraid. Time skip. A man known as Amaki was running for his life. Beside him was two individuals. They were all running for their life to get away from the dark monstrosities that appeared out of nowhere. Amaki had gray hair, tiny beady eyes, and he was wearing a lab coat. He was not really a fighter. Beside him, though, was a strange human-fish hybrid. It had gills, and red eyes, and fish arms. The color was green. Amaki arrived towards a massive door. As he wrote in the necessary password for it to open. "Kill him!" he yelled towards the two fishmen. As he ran inside, he was able to witness what was going on. The screen in front of him that was attached to the camera that was outside. Amaki saw as a strange beast, strange blue flames that seemed to clad over its body. It had a massive staff in its hand as it twirled it. One of the fishmen rushed forward as he tried to slice the creature down. However, it ducked and weaved. It proceeded to stab the fishman through the back with its staff. The other one jumped. He was also impaled through the stomach with the other end of the staff. The both of them gagging on their own blood. The large creature twirled its staff, the shadow. Both of them were sent sailing as they crashed into the wall. Amaki was trembling when he noticed. The thing came to a stop. However, the steel wall behind him started to tremble when a fist exploded through it, breaking through the steel and the stone that was in there. The wall was then being ripped open. Amaki knew that he had no other choice. He rushed over and slammed a huge red button. Suddenly, a mass of water came pouring down until it turned into a strange, colossal creature. The gigantic creature had a strange, red core inside of its head. It had several wiggly arms that seemed like tentacles, but they were made from the gelatin water. It slammed into the person as it exploded the wall. "Kill him!" Amaki yelled out. "I don't know who you are, but you forced me to use Umobosu, and now you shall die." It was then that the massive creature came swinging his hand down. It obliterated the ground. However, there was nothing there. Where did he go?" Amaki said. That is when the creature looked up. Slice. A wave tore through the creature's body, obliterating the emblem inside of it. The water splattered on the ground as the creature was sliced in half with ease. Amaki was in complete shock. All of his work that he put into that destroyed with one single swing. This was impossible. Amaki tried to flee back through the door, almost forgetting the shadowy figure out there. That is when a dagger slammed through his shoulder, pinning him right to the wall. He cried out in pain. He would move, but a blade pressed against his throat. He swallowed thickly. I'll give you whatever you want. Just please, don't kill me," he said. "Tell me everything you know about Orochimaru." Amaki was hesitant to speak. Orochimaru and him were in cahoots. He was the one that was funding his operation. As Naruto reached out and grabbed the dagger and proceeded to twist it. Amaki cried out in pain. Fine. He wasn't one that was built for torture. I'll tell you everything." 30 minutes of Amaki spilling everything that he knew. "Now, let me go like you promised," Amaki said. Slice. The scientist's head was sent rolling. As Naruto stood there, several shadows came out of his. "Destroy it," he said. "Destroy it all." As he started to walk, the whole building and facility behind him was being torn and ripped apart. Time skip. Orochimaru was not pleased. Judging by the sound ninjas in front of him that was trembling in fear. "Leave now," the Sannin said. They ran away for their life. The Sannin was frustrated, so much so that he messed up. Yukimaru was dead. It was an accident. He was experimenting on a child, but he did not want to kill him. However, he was frustrated while he was doing so, and he slipped up. And now the child was dead. However, the worst part of it was, he did not accomplish what he wanted, and now he was being hunted by someone. Orochimaru was not sure who it was. The person has been keeping their face out of the spotlight. When he arrived towards the base where Kimimaru was supposed to be, arriving there, he saw nothing but chaos and destruction. The purple mist, it seemed to be generating from this area. Even after weeks of this, it was still filled with it. He could not control it or do anything with it. However, it was so thick and powerful, a sign of whoever it was. After that little event that pissed him off so much where he accidentally made the child die on the operating table, he was even more mad when several of his different buildings' operations start to go down. Several things that he was funding start to fall. Even Amaki research in the perfect creature of the sea and land, it was completely eviscerated. It seems like that bastard Amaki had told whoever it was that was hunting him specific details about several other projects that him and Amaki had worked with, as all of them had collapsed in a matter of weeks. Weeks turned into months, and more of his facilities, more of his people were dying, and no one was surviving to tell him who or what was chasing him. The Sanin started to get paranoid, moving every now and again to escape whatever it was, but it was not slowing down, nor was it taking its time. It was coming for him. Meanwhile, at a bar near the Land of Wind, sitting in the back row, as Naruto was drinking, the taste of sake had seemed to become rather attracted to him. He couldn't go a long while without trying to drown his sorrows in sake. Despite him having a mission, he couldn't be on the mission every day. He's done so much in the past few weeks that went by. He's caused so much chaos. There was no doubt in his mind that the Sani knew that he was being hunted. That is what Naruto wanted though. He wanted them to know that he was coming for them, that he was going to kill them all. He was going to burn every trace of him from this world. After that, he was not so sure. He was about to drink as he brought the sake cup up to his mouth when someone took it out of his hand. He did not react as the person proceeded to gulp down the sake and place it back down on the table. It was a female as she sat down, wearing a black cloak. This time it was just a normal black cloak though. She had white hair. Her electric blue eyes had this smile in them as she looked towards him. "It's been a long time, hasn't it?" she said to him. Her name was Raina, someone from his past. The both of them, sent by different people to gather one artifact. They fought. They had no reason to kill each other, but they needed the artifact. They fought for it. This was a few years back, and she defeated him. Raina was special. Yes, she was. Not to say that she did not exit that fight exhausted and could not fight anymore, but he was the one to collapse on his back, breathing heavily. But that was a few years ago. That was when he was not this strong and powerful. Raina was a missing name from Kumo. Her history was clouded in shadows. However, she had a special bloodline. Her body was electric. She had a lightning bloodline that was rarer than any that Naruto has ever seen. She had limiters on her body to make sure that she did not constantly ooze the lightning chakra that wanted to burn out of her. It also seemed to amplify her strength when she focused on it. Raina was immensely strong, and with the lightning affinity she was immensely fast as well. He had done some research about her. However, those were fake. Once, when they met up again in the past, when he asked her about it, she refused to tell him, but they constantly kept on running into each other, neither of them winning when they fought the other times. However, the both of them were holding back, as they were not trying to kill each other. One time they simply sat down and had a drink. She had fell in love with someone. Raina was older than Naruto by a couple of years. This was in the third Raikage reign, just a few short months before he died. before his son took over. She wanted to quit the force, to spend her life for the man that she fell in love with. However, the Raikage did not want that. Raina was a great asset. The man that she fell in love with had died on a mission. Raina became obsessed with trying to find out because she was told a story which she did not believe. She eventually found out that he was killed by his own comrade, a mission that was given to him. It was to make sure that Raina became cold-hearted and bloodlusted. She went on the attack and slaughtered all those that went on the mission with the man that she fell for. She went to face the Raikage. She escaped though. That was just a glimpse to see how powerful she truly was. She attacked the Raikage and she still somehow escaped, even while he had his forces. The Raikage was a very powerful man. She should have known that she could not beat him back then. She wasn't strong enough, even with her bloodline and full max. However, she used it as a tool to escape the village. Ever since then, she's been on the run away from it. She didn't even want to go back either, as she thought about the man that changed her life for the better. She ran away from it. She's not been with anyone since that happened. It just felt like she would be betraying his memory. She looked over toward Naruto. She had a little funny personality, and she liked to play with Naruto, teasing him to be quite precise. However, the smile dropped off her face and her eyes when she saw the look in his eyes. "I'm sorry," she said. She was the only other person that knew where he lived. That is because she had tracked him once and following him there. She liked to know where her friend enemy lived. Yes, because that was their little gimmick. She had saw the grave nearby. "I'm sorry," she said. She thought that she should come into this in a playful form to keep his mind off it, but he did not seem to be in the mood. "Do you need my help?" she said. "I'm not doing anything right now." "It seems like you're hunting whoever this is." She could tell. He had the look in his eyes. He was on the hunt. "No, I'm perfectly fine," he said. She simply nodded, respecting what he said. "I understand. You want to do this alone. But please don't tell me after you're finished that you're going to check yourself out." He glanced over towards her, knowing exactly what she meant. She watched his lips. He took a really long time to answer. "No," he said. "I could never face her again if I went out that way." "Good to hear," she said. "Well, I see that you're here to drink. So let's drink," she said, calling over the waitress. "We don't have to talk about that." As they proceeded to drink, while that was going on, a man that was over towards the other side was glancing over watching them. He took notice of them. This man was none other than Jiraiya of the Sannin. He could tell that those two were powerful. He soon recognized the girl. She was a missing nin from Kumo. But that was not his business but the boy. Dark hair and eccentric blue eyes. Strangely enough, he looked like he'd seen him before. However, Jiraiya did not remember seeing this person. He returned back to what he was doing, drinking, and having fun with the ladies. As he watched, the dark-haired guy and that girl, her name was Raina, left the building. What was this strange feeling like he knew him, Jiraiya thought to himself. As he was passing by, their gaze locked for a split second. The feeling was bothering the Sannin. That look. Why does it feel like he knew him, he thought. He even stepped away from the girls. But when he got outside, they were already gone. The nagging feeling just would not go away. Time skip. Later that night, Jiraiya jumped out of bed. There was a girl on his left, and another one on his right. The Sannin eyes were wide. Flashes went through his mind as he looked down towards the young boy. That look in his eyes. They were the same. No, that's impossible. Was that Naruto? He thought to himself in complete and utter shock. The son, the first son of Minato and Kushina. He had fell off the planet some time ago. It didn't matter how much they searched. There was no one matching his description, but his hair was different now, dark. Could that really be him? The Sanin was racking his brain. He looked nothing like him. He looked different completely, but that look in his eyes, the gaze that they captured for a single moment, it was something that could not leave his mind. Could it really and truly be Naruto after all this time? Was he truly alive? Jiraiya decided to find out more on what was going on because he did not want to raise Minato or Kushina hope and just let them down once again. After all, there has been misleading evidence in the past that always ended up in a failure. Time skip, Konoha. Because of the changes that were made within the academy, the children were a lot stronger. Mito and Menma had graduated over a month and a half now. Mito had been placed on Team 7 with Sakura and Sasuke Uchiha. And it was finally time for their first C-rank mission. Menma was placed on a team with Ami Uzuki. She was a younger sister of Yujiro Uzuki, someone that learned under his mother. She was currently Anvu, a very powerful one. Ami wished to grow up just like her sister as she was already dabbling with blades. The other member was Raikou. He was the younger brother of Aoba. He was a very talented genin, scoring within the top 10 in their class. He took after his older brother. Aoba was a very powerful jonin as well. So, Ryu had special shinobi training from a very young age. This team was a strike and attack team, a very powerful one. Their jonin sensei was a man known as Yamato. He was special in more than one ways. He was also a user of the Mokitan, so that he could also train Menma in the art. However, his teaching was fit to help the others as well. He wasn't much of a blade user, but he had several other things that he could teach Ami. He was a recently promoted jonin, as he would be fitting for this team, which is known as Team 12. At the moment though, Team 7 was proceeding towards Land of Wave. Sakura, Sasuke, and Mito. Her mother wanted to make sure that she had everything packed this morning. She made a big fuss over it. As they were heading there towards a location, talking to the client, the man seemed a bit jumpy for some reason. He seemed to not be calming down anytime soon. The closer they got, the more jumpy he seemed to get. It did not take too long for them to come across something strange. Sasuke picked up on it. His father, despite the man being a bit distant because he was always focusing on Itachi, he tried to drill the information in his head that he must always watch his surroundings. That is when he noticed something was off. He glanced towards Mito, who seemed to notice. Her eyes caught Sakura's. Sakura watched her gaze as she looked down. The academy was a lot harder to pass. And the fact that Sakura and the others, some of the other genins had passed it, shows that they had gotten a lot stronger. Minato wanted to make sure that they were ready for everything that the world had to throw at them. Sakura hand reached behind her in an unassuming motion. The next moment, a kunai with an explosive tag was brought out as she launched it. Two people leap out of the water. When it exploded, both Mito and Sasuke jumped in front of them. They start to attack. Sakura jumped in front of the client. Kakashi simply stood there. As he watched the attack, the C-rank ninjas, they weren't C-rank by themselves though. Combined, the demon brothers were C-rank. Kakashi realized instantly that something was wrong. They weren't supposed to be on this mission. Meanwhile, that was going on. A man that seemed to be in his early 30s. He had several lacerations and cuts over his body. A look of absolute fear was in his eyes. Talk. The voice spoke up. It's Gato. Gato of the shipping company. I'm the one who's the liaison between him and Orochimaru. He give Orochimaru people for maybe experiments, I don't know. And Orochimaru makes sure that he's safe in certain areas. I believe that he's also paying him. I'm not sure. I'm not that high up in the food chain, but I was there to deliver. A few people, he said. That's all I know. I promise. Please, don't kill me. Where can I find this Gato? Naruto asks. I don't slice. The man screamed as he held on to his face, blood pouring down. I said, where can I find this Gato? I heard that he was dealing with something in the land of Wave. That's all I know. I promise. Please, let me. He was cut off as his head was slicing too. As Naruto placed his blade in his dimensional storage. Land of Wave, huh? He thought to himself. As he proceeded to walk out of the building, bodies were littered everywhere, torn and sliced and ripped in half. As Naruto's shadows came towards him, this time it was the one with the two blades, as he proceeded to place them over his back in the holster. Naruto sent out two others. You already know what to do, he said. They started to rip the place apart, tearing everything down. As Naruto stepped outside, the cool breeze blowing back his dark hair. Land of Wave, he said once again. But guys, be and subscribe right here. If you want to see next part and do, like, subscribe, comment down below and turn on that bell notification so you posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. But I'm off for now, see you guys soon. Peace.